The wind cut through the crowded New York streets like sharp glass, carrying with it the usual symphony of honking cars, vendors shouting, and hurried footsteps. Among the chaos, a man sat on the edge of a sidewalk, his back against the cold brick wall of a shuttered bakery. His coat was old and frayed at the edges, the kind of gray that might once have been black. His boots were mismatched, one lace gone, the other tied in knots that looked like they'd never come undone. His name was Daniel Carter, 36 years old, a single father, and homeless for the past 6 months. Beside him, wrapped in a faded blue blanket, slept his 8-year-old daughter, Emily. Her small face peeked out from under the hood of her sweatshirt, cheeks flushed from the biting cold. She stirred in her sleep, letting out a small cough that made Daniel's chest tighten. "Easy, sweetheart," he whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. He had once been a man with a job, a small apartment, and dreams that didn't feel so impossible. But life had a way of unraveling quickly. A layoff. Medical bills from his late wife's illness. Rent he couldn't pay. One thing toppled after another until he was here on the street with his daughter, clinging to what little dignity he had left. Daniel wasn't a beggar by nature. He fixed things for people when he could: radios, clocks, anything mechanical. He had been a junior technician once, before everything fell apart. People on the block knew him as the fix-it guy, though most days they just passed him by. That morning, as snow threatened to fall, Daniel sat hunched over a small, broken pocket watch someone had tossed in a donation box. He turned the tiny gears carefully with a bent paper clip he used as a tool. Fixing things calmed him, it gave him purpose, even if no one cared. But someone did care. She was watching him. Across the street, a black town car pulled up outside a glass building that seemed to scrape the sky. From it stepped a young woman in a sharp gray coat, her dark hair pulled back in a low bun. Everything about her screamed money and control, the kind of person who didn't notice people like Daniel. Her name was Isabella Drake, 28, newly appointed CEO of Drake Enterprises after her father's passing the previous year. Her face had been on magazine covers, her name in every business article calling her the youngest female CEO in the tech world. But right now, Isabella wasn't thinking about board meetings or stock prices. She was staring at the man on the sidewalk with the broken watch. It wasn't the man himself that caught her attention. It was the way he worked: steady hands, eyes narrowed in focus, like the whole noisy city didn't exist. She checked her wrist instinctively. Her own watch, a slim, elegant piece of gold with a black leather band, had stopped ticking 2 nights ago. Not just any watch. It had been her father's, the one he wore every single day until the night he died. It was the only thing of his she carried with her always. She had taken it to 2 jewelers already. Both told her the same thing: it's too old, too damaged. Not worth fixing. But watching the man on the street repair a useless bit of junk with nothing but a paper clip, something in her hesitated. Impulsively, she crossed the street. Her heels clicked against the pavement until she stopped in front of him. Daniel looked up slowly, surprised. People in expensive coats usually avoided eye contact with him, as if poverty were contagious. "Are you fixing that?" she asked, her voice cool but curious. Daniel nodded. "Trying to." She held out her watch. "Could you look at this? It belonged to my father. It doesn't work anymore." Daniel hesitated. The watch looked expensive. Way out of his league. "I can try," he said finally. She handed it to him carefully, like she was handing over something fragile. Daniel turned it over in his hands. The casing was scratched near the edges but still beautiful. He popped it open with the precision of someone who respected the craft. Inside, the gears were worn, a spring loose, but nothing beyond repair. Emily stirred awake beside him, blinking up at the stranger towering over them. "Daddy," she mumbled. "It's okay, Em," he said softly. "Just fixing something." Isabella glanced at the girl, then back at the man. Something in her chest shifted slightly, though she didn't know why. For the next 15 minutes, Daniel worked silently. Isabella watched his hands, rough and cracked from cold, move with surprising gentleness. Finally, he replaced the spring, adjusted the tiny balance wheel, and closed the casing. "Try it now," he said, handing it back. Isabella fastened the watch on her wrist and waited. The second hand began to tick. But then, a small click sounded, followed by static. And then, "Bella, pumpkin, if you're hearing this, it means..." Isabella froze. Her father's voice. Faint, crackling, but unmistakable. She tore her eyes from the watch to the man on the sidewalk, heart pounding. What did you do?" she whispered. Daniel looked just as stunned. "I just fixed the mechanism. I didn't know it could talk." But the voice kept playing, as if triggered by the repair. Her father's voice. A message locked inside the watch all this time. Isabella's hands trembled as the city noise faded around her. The man she'd barely noticed 5 minutes ago had just unlocked her father's last words. And suddenly, nothing felt the same anymore. The world around Isabella blurred as her father's voice spilled out of the watch. People brushed past on the busy sidewalk, horns blared from impatient drivers, a street vendor shouted about hot pretzels. None of it reached her. The voice was faint, grainy with age, but warm. So familiar that it hurt. "Bella, pumpkin, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone." Isabella's throat tightened. Her father, Richard Drake, had died suddenly of a heart attack nearly a year ago. He had left her the company, the wealth, the endless responsibilities she wasn't sure she was ready for. But he hadn't left her a goodbye. No letter. No last words. Just silence. Until now. She clutched the watch like it was something alive, afraid the voice would stop. "I built this for you," the recording continued, "so you'd know the truth when the time was right. About the company. About me. About what really happened." The message ended abruptly with a soft click. Isabella stood frozen, staring at the watch, her pulse hammering. "What really happened?" she whispered to herself. The man on the sidewalk, Daniel, though she didn't know his name yet, watched her with cautious eyes. His daughter Emily leaned against him sleepily, rubbing her eyes. "Ma'am," Daniel said finally. "Are you okay?" She looked at him, this stranger in a tattered coat, and realized he had been the one to unlock this secret. "Where did you learn to fix things like this?" she asked, her voice unsteady. Daniel shrugged. "I used to be a technician. Before things changed." He didn't elaborate. People rarely cared about the details of how a man ended up on the street. But Isabella wasn't looking at him with pity. She looked unsettled. "Could you fix it again if it stops?" she asked. "I think so," he said slowly. "But I've never seen a watch like this. There's some kind of voice chip hidden inside. Pretty advanced for something that looks this old." Isabella nodded distractedly, her mind already spinning. Her father had been a visionary in tech. If anyone could hide a message inside a watch, it was him. She glanced at the man and his daughter. They looked out of place here, like they belonged to another world entirely. And yet, he had been the one to give her something she didn't even know she needed. "Do you have somewhere to be?" she asked. Daniel gave a humorless laugh. "Not exactly." "Do you work?" "Not right now." She hesitated, then made a decision. "I need someone who can handle delicate things. Someone I can trust." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You don't even know me." "True," she said. "But you fixed this when no one else could. That's enough for now." Emily tugged at her father's sleeve. "Daddy, I'm hungry." Isabella looked at the little girl, then back at Daniel. Something inside her softened, though she kept her voice cool. "There's a cafe around the corner," she said. "Come with me. Both of you. I'll buy you lunch. We need to talk." Daniel hesitated. Pride fought with practicality. But Emily's tired eyes made the choice for him. "Okay," he said quietly. Dash dash. The cafe was warm and smelled of coffee and fresh bread. Emily ate a sandwich like she hadn't seen food in days, which wasn't far from the truth. Daniel drank black coffee slowly, watching Isabella across the table. She sat with perfect posture, the gold watch on her wrist, eyes distant like she was replaying the voice in her head. Finally, she spoke. "My father built this company from nothing," she said. "People called him a genius. But near the end, he became secretive. He said there were things he couldn't tell me yet. That when the time was right, I'd understand." She looked at the watch. "I think this is what he meant." Daniel listened quietly. He wasn't used to people talking to him like this, as if his opinion mattered. "What do you think he meant by what really happened?" Daniel asked. "I don't know," Isabella admitted. "But there were rumors after he died. About the board, about rivals trying to push him out. Even, about foul play." Daniel frowned. "You think someone might have wanted him gone?" Isabella's jaw tightened. "I don't know what to think. But if he left this message hidden, maybe he knew something." The watch sat between them on the table, small and ordinary looking, as if it didn't hold the weight of a dead man's secrets. "Could there be more messages?" Daniel asked. "Maybe," she said. "But I can't risk taking it to just anyone. If my father was right, if someone inside the company was involved." She didn't finish the thought. Daniel looked at her, at the sharp intelligence in her eyes beneath the grief. She was nothing like the people who tossed him spare change without looking at him. She was calculating but human, like someone carrying too much on her shoulders. "Why me?" he asked finally. "I'm just nobody." Isabella studied him. The rough beard, the worn coat, the little girl leaning against his side. And yet, those steady hands had brought her father's voice back to life. "Because you have nothing to gain," she said simply. "And maybe that's exactly what I need." Daniel didn't know what to say to that. Before he could reply, the watch clicked again. Both of them froze. Another burst of static. Then her father's voice: "If you're hearing this second message, it means you fixed the watch twice. Good. That means you're close. Bella, you can't trust." The message cut off sharply, like someone had sliced the words in half. "Can't trust who?" Isabella whispered, gripping the watch. Daniel looked around the cafe. No one seemed to notice. But both of them felt it. Something bigger than either of them had just been set in motion.